Drakengard 3 serves as the prequel to the first game in the series that released on the PS2 a few years prior, and what made those games so notorious was the great art design, music, and insanely dark story created by Taro Yoko. The narrative is easily the high point and revolves around the internet's incredibly powerful goddesses who appeared from nowhere and subjugated the world. It seems like they brought peace and order, but not everything is as it seems, especially since the main character Zero is an interner who wants to kill all the others. I don't want to spoil too much, so let's just talk about the gameplay. Now, it's not exactly groundbreaking, but it does a far better job than the previous games and allows you to wield up to 4 different types of weapons. You've got your sword, which is essentially a jack of all trades, your fists, which are perfect for dealing damage on a single enemy, lances that make short work of enemy defenses, and finally your chakrams that are perfect for crowd control and ranged attacks. You can switch between all of them on the fly, making them perfect for the ever-changing situations on the battlefield, and with them all being able to be upgraded, the game constantly deals out new types of attacks and options for you to work into your combos. Of course, like the originals, your dragon is also a huge part of the gameplay, but you can't just summon it at will anymore, and it's instead confined to certain spots within the game. The moments you do get to ride it feel a lot like Panzer Dragoon and offer up a nice change of pace from the usual hack and slash gameplay throughout the adventure. Overall, it's clear that Drakengard 3 won't be for everyone, but if you're willing to overlook some of the more questionable aspects of the game, such as subpar visuals and some of the darker elements of the story, then it's well worth giving a go. The hype leading up to Killzone 2 was palpable, and that no doubt had everything to do with its initial trailer that in hindsight was a complete and utter fake. To be fair though, when the finished product released, while it wasn't up to the visual standard of the reveal, it soon became one of the best first-person shooters on the PlayStation 3. The story involves humans having settled various planets throughout the galaxy, and fighting the invading Helghast, who are more than ready to stand their ground. Now once you've completed it, it's clear to see that the story is one of the weakest aspects of the game, especially when compared to the others in the series, but the gameplay is where Killzone 2 truly excels. It plays like a standard FPS as you shoot, aim down your sights, throw grenades, crouch and sprint for cover. But there are a few segments that serve to break up the normal gameplay, mainly when you jump into one of the many different vehicles such as tanks that offer a welcome break from the minute-to-minute gunplay. The first thing you'll no doubt notice whilst playing the game though are the stunning visuals that take full advantage of the power that the PlayStation 3 offers, with the environments looking and feeling incredibly lifelike with plenty of interaction and impressive physics. For example, you can tear through walls and pillars, making certain buildings collapse, or in certain sequences you can blow up bridges and buildings with an RPG and just watch the beauty of the physics engine as it plays out. People doubted that Guerrilla could match their initial reveal trailer, and even though it's clearly not as good, they did manage to at least stay true to what they proposed, and Killzone 2 raised the bar in terms of visuals and solidified its place as one of the PlayStation 3's defining games. Blast Factor is a top-down twin-stick shooter and feels a lot like Geometry Wars, but with a few ideas of its own that help differentiate it. You are a pilot of a G-18 Nanite Interceptor, which is a tiny ship that is injected into infected specimens to destroy viruses. There's about 7 specimens or stages to clear, which are all made up of several different screens, with your ship and the viruses being confined inside a hexagonal cell that's full of fluid. The left stick controls your ship and the right the direction of your shots, and you've got a few different types, such as a basic machine gun, a spread fire and homing shots, as well as a special weapon known as the repulsor that allows you to push enemies away from you. Certain enemies can only be taken out this way, and with it having to charge up after every use, it's best to save it for when it's absolutely necessary. What makes the gameplay a bit more interesting though is the ability to use the 6-axis controls motion capabilities, and by tilting it from left to right you can tilt the entire cell, which creates a wave in the fluid that sloshes from one side of the screen to the other. This pushes all of the enemies to the edge of the screen and gives you a chance to start fresh should you find yourself being overwhelmed. That being said, the difficulty curve is finely tuned, with the action starting off pretty easy but gradually ramping up to deliver a satisfying level of challenge. The inclusion of a multiplayer mode adds even more to the experience, allowing you to team up with friends in co-op or compete against each other to see who can clear levels faster and more efficiently. With its combination of tight controls, simple but stunning visuals, and clever gameplay mechanics, Blast Factor is one of the most enjoyable twin-stick shooters on the PlayStation 3. Out of all of the games that is stuck on the PlayStation 3, the MotorStorm series has to be one of the most requested to make a comeback on modern consoles, and it's easy to see why, as it's made up of some of the best racing games available on the system. Now for me, it's still the first game that I enjoy the most, and like other races, it's made up of several different modes, with the single player campaign being the main draw. Here you've got to take on a series of just over 20 events, with up to 4 races making up each of them. Now the tracks in MotorStorm play a large part in the success of the game. You'll never follow the same path twice, as there's just so many ways to complete each race, and every course is basically an open-ended level with multiple paths to the finish line. Complementing this aspect of the game is the huge selection of different vehicles you get to use. From dirt and quad bikes to trucks and rally cars, there's a lot to try out, and thankfully the controls are perfect with the different types of terrain and the style of vehicle you're driving affecting how they handle. Something they all share in common though is the boost mechanic, and you can use it all you want, but if the meter goes all the way to the red, your engine overheats and your vehicle explodes. Now even all of these years later, when it comes to visuals, MotorStorm holds up surprisingly well and looks absolutely gorgeous in motion. The lighting and particle effects really stand out, with dust clouds, mud splashes and sparks flying as vehicles collide and careen across the rugged terrain. The attention to detail in the vehicles is truly impressive as well, as every scratch, dent and mud splatter is meticulously rendered, making crashes and collisions feel visceral and impactful. Whether you're plunging down a muddy slope in a big rig, weaving through narrow paths on a dirt bike, or tearing through the desert in a rally car, MotorStorm delivers in spades. Macross 30 is a celebration of the beloved franchise and brings together characters, mechs and music from across its storied history into an incredible action RPG adventure. Unfortunately, it never made its way west, but for non-Japanese speakers, it's easy to jump into and figure out what to do, making it one of the best games for fans of the source material to experience. Now you take on the role of a pilot known as Leon, who becomes stranded on a remote planet where he finds he is far from alone, as many others from across time and space have been stranded on the planet as well. So it's up to you and these survivors to explore and unlock the secrets of the ruins that cover the world. When it comes to gameplay, the previous entries in the series were mostly mission based, but Macross 30 prides itself on being a flight action RPG. To start with, the world is a series of several large sandbox areas full of enemies, cities and missions to complete, and instead of unlocking new planes based on a grade or score, you now loot the wrecks of your enemies for parts, and once you find the blueprint for one of them, you can use them to build yourself a better mech. What helps the game succeed is the variety of objectives to complete, and apart from the main story, there's a ton of side activities to enjoy. May that be one of the optional boss battles, collection missions and dungeons, or several races and timed obstacle courses to get through. There's just an insane amount of content that the game cooks up, and while none of them really live up to the main missions, they still give you plenty to do while gathering parts for your next plane. Overall, it's clear to see that Macross 30 is a love letter to the long-running franchise, and is something that's worth playing for mech fans, and especially those of you that enjoy Macross. Tokyo Jungle has to be one of the most bizarre games that ever released for the PlayStation 3, where you play as one of many different animals and have to survive in a post-apocalyptic Tokyo to see how many years your bloodline can survive. This involves getting food, avoiding predators, and mating to continue on to the next generation, with the gameplay varying depending on which animal you're playing as. As a predator, you've got to hunt for other animals and need meat to survive. This sees you stalking your prey and hiding in nearby grass and waiting for the right moment to pounce. You can either deliver a quick kill shot or run circles around some of the larger beasts and other predators. On the other hand, there's moments where you'll be playing as a herbivore, and here you'll have to find plants to eat and avoid getting attacked by predators. As you hunt your prey or eat your plants, your food in the area will dwindle, causing you to migrate across the map in search of food, which keeps the game interesting as there's so many different locations to discover. And with the constant looming threat of death, the game never feels slow as you work towards passing on your genes to the next generation. What's also pretty cool is the game can be played with 2 players. Of course, this does complicate things, as now you have 2 animals that require food and mating, but with the right animals paired and the right teammate, you can make a very strong and productive team. Overall, there's not really anything else like it, and it's this originality that helps Tokyo Jungle stand out. And even though it won't be to everyone's taste, if you're looking for something that's truly unique, it's definitely worth tracking down. The PlayStation 3 was home to many of the best first-person shooters of the generation, and the third game in the Resistance series would see you carrying on the fight against the invading Chimera in one last-ditch effort to save the world and humanity as a whole. You play as Joe, and after the events of the second game that saw the demise of the series' former hero, it's down to you to finish what he started, and everything in the game just screams bigger and better. There's larger set pieces, huge battles, and an ever-increasing amount of inventive weaponry that you get to play with. There are 12 weapons in the game, and each one feels unique and fun in its own way. You can carry all of them at any given time, thanks to the fact that Insomniac eliminated the irritating two-weapon system from Resistance 2, so you'll never really run out of new ways to rain death on the Chimera. The game also benefits from a slick, persistent weapon upgrade system that can really help extend your time with the relatively short story mode. Causing damage with a weapon fills up what amounts to a level up meter, and when the meter is full, the weapon will automatically upgrade itself then and there on the battlefield. These upgrades can be as simple as attaching a scope or increasing damage, but there are some really cool enhancements, such as the ability to fire flaming buckshot from your shotgun. Overall, Resistance 3 is a testament to Insomniac's game's ability to craft a rich, compelling world filled with memorable characters and pulse-pounding action. So if you've yet to experience it, now would be the perfect time to dive into one of the most exhilarating and unforgettable first-person shooters on the PlayStation 3. Initial D Extreme Stage is based on an anime of the same name and faithfully recreates the world of its source material, featuring various mountain passes and cars that have become synonymous with the franchise. You step into the shoes of Takumi and other iconic racers as you battle it out on the narrow, winding roads of Japan's most demanding tracks. At its core, it's a game about mastering the art of drift racing, and shares a lot of similarities with the likes of Ridge Racer, with it offering a much more arcadey approach to its gameplay, instead of the realism you'll find in simulators like Gran Turismo. The game is made up of two main modes. You've got Time Attack and the Legend mode, with the latter delivering the bulk of what the game has to offer. It's split up into a range of different races or battles that see you being rewarded with points upon their completion. You can use these points to upgrade your car's performance and appearance in the garage, which all have a noticeable effect out on the road. Now, the controls are quite slippery, and it'll take some time to get used to the handling of each car, but if you stick with it, you'll be nailing each corner in no time. But the game does require a lot of grinding to get to the higher levels and defeat some of the more difficult rivals, which sees you having to repeat most of the stages, but with the fun and exhilarating gameplay, it never once feels like a chore, and with the amount of unlockable content, you'll always feel like you're being rewarded. While it may not cater to casual players due to its challenging gameplay, fans of the series and racing enthusiasts will find much to love. So whether you're a die-hard Initial D fan or someone just looking for a unique and rewarding racing game, Extreme Stage is a must-have title for the PS3. Genji will likely only ever be remembered for its infamous reveal at E3, but despite all of the memes, it's actually a pretty decent game and follow-up to the original on the PS2. Set 3 years after the events of the first game, the story throws you into the world of ancient Japan, with the player taking on the role of Yoshitsune and his allies as they face a new threat from an evil clan, who have returned with a powerful army bolstered by mystical forces. Now, you get to play as one of 4 different characters. You've got the fast swordsman, capable of executing rapid combos, a hulking warrior who excels at crowd control, a skilled archer that adds ranged attacks into the mix, and finally a heavy hitter that incorporates magic into their fighting style. As you would guess, each of their strengths and abilities is suited to different situations, and being able to switch between them on the fly makes the combat feel strategic and satisfying, with you being able to chain combos, execute powerful finishing moves, and utilize special abilities to turn the tide of battle. There's also several RPG aspects in the game, which see you being able to upgrade your health and weapons by acquiring different types of essence throughout the adventure. These are usually earned by defeating certain enemies or exploring one of the many locations you visit throughout the game, giving you an incentive to not just simply rush through all of the levels as fast as you can. While it may not have reached the widespread acclaim of other games on the PlayStation 3, there's no denying that it captures the spirit of the samurai epics that clearly inspired it. So for fans of action games or just Japanese culture in general, definitely worth tracking down. Tales of Exilia 2 picks up a year after the events of the first game and begins with the main character Ludger, whose life takes a dramatic turn when he's drawn into a conflict involving alternative dimensions and a mysterious organization. Alongside returning characters from the first game, you embark on a journey to save the world while grappling with your own destiny, and while the story may be a bit convoluted, it does a good job of keeping the action flowing. Now, the hallmark of the Tales series is its action-packed linear motion battle system, and Tales of Exilia 2 refines this formula to near perfection. The combat is fast, fluid, and deeply satisfying, offering a mix of real-time action and strategy, with Ludger having the ability to switch between 3 different types of weapons. You've got dual swords, guns, and a sledgehammer that all have a role to play depending on the enemy in your sights. As you would expect, each of them come with their own special moves, or arts as the game refers to them, which makes short work of the enemies when used correctly. And complementing this is the return of the link system from the first game that enables you to team up with your party members and deliver powerful attacks that can turn the flow of combat in the blink of an eye. Now, one area where the game excels is within its replay value. Throughout the game you have to make decisions in the story which alter its path and unlock one of the game's 5 different endings that make playing through it again all the more worthwhile. Whether you're a seasoned fan of the series or a newcomer, its combination of emotional depth, thrilling battles, and player-driven storytelling make it one of the most memorable entries in the series and one of the best RPGs on the PlayStation 3. Well, that does it for today's video. Keep an eye out for part 3 as that will be coming up soon, so don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell to get notified about new videos which release every Monday and Thursday. You can follow me on all of the socials which are linked below to stay up to date, and also join my growing community on Discord to meet many like-minded gamers to continue the conversation with. I'd like to give a special shout out to my Patreon supporters Rhino, Skill Jim, Shuden, Richard, Amy, Daniel, Dio, Omar, Strider, Pierre, Carl, Awesome Jacket Dude, Maximus, Scott, Alfred, Terry, Ryan, Alex, GameCube Galaxy, Curse Salaryman, Fake, and Paddy J for their continued support that helps make these videos possible. If you're interested in joining my Discord or supporting the channel through Patreon, you'll find all of these links down below. As always, thanks for taking the time to check the video out. I'll catch you next time.